feel you on
And
that.
we probably will need some kind of paper towel or cloth cup.
Yeah.
And these guy ones are gigantic, but we don't have to fill them.
Why don't I use my little guys here?
You can use your little guy, and
Okay.
I think this side is ideal.
Okay.
But that will give me a talking point
Okay.
as to why I would recommend.
You know what? No, I'm gonna go with yours. I'm gonna go with
It
yours.
makes it more difficult.
Okay, we are live right now. Hello, everybody. This is episode 92. I'm Jared Nyberg, co-host of, co-owner of JagaSilk. And I'm here today with Erick Smithe of Cloudwalker Tea. Erick, hello.
Hello.
Erick's gonna go over some brewing hacks, as he says all the cool kids are calling it these days.
I was forced to use that term.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun just making some Pu-erh. We're gonna talk about Erick's perspective on tea and a little bit of a new project that we're doing here at JagaSilk that involves working with Erick on some selections that he's brought in from Origin. Okay, so. I guess we start with our mise en place. Hey, do I have everything I need? I'm at 100.
I think so.
Okay, we got my Gaiwan. You know what? I'm gonna go and. Am I allowed to use a scale, or is that against the rules?
I think for your benefit, you're going to want to have the scale.
I'm a Padawan.
And I think also for the benefit of the viewer to be able to know that we are using the amounts that we claim to.
Amazing. Okay, and then you probably need. We'll get 4 cups. So that.
This is what's known in the industry as a brew-off.
A brew. And I'm always off with my brewing, so I always win. That's how it works, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Either JB or Lindsay. I need the bag of matcha just sealed, if that would be possible. So thank you. So. Okay.
So for this brew-off,
yeah.
neither of us have any advantage with the materials or the equipment we're going to be using. I bought these two Gaiwan from the 1980s.
Amazing.
Not 1 hour ago.
No.
From a second-hand shop for $3.
Amazing. Okay.
Excellent score. So I've never used it before.
You're going all in.
But we had some debate because we're brewing tea side by side. It is a little bit. It is a little bit large size Gaiwan to be using for one person, but there are also advantages. Sometimes a small Gaiwan, especially with right pour, it's much easier to over steep teas. It doesn't really matter whether it's a pour, a green tea, white tea. The skill level that you have to brew it really well is higher the smaller the Gaiwan or higher the smaller the Gaiwan that you go with. But
okay.
This will be a little bit more forgiving. This size-wise, I'm not sure, probably like 180 milliliters, something like that.
I want to pause you just for a second because we haven't introduced you yet.
Oh.
But I want to get this is all really important, and this is exactly what we're going
to being infamous.
Yeah, there you go. So for those of you who have not met Erick, Erick has been on the show. This is his 3rd time on JagaVision, I believe. Yeah, and we've had him on a couple. I've co-hosted the Victoria Tea Festival Revival a number of times. And Erick has been a regular speaker, and he owns.
I prefer raconteur.
Raconteur, okay. And he owns.
Bon vivant. Do you have any other terms?
What is there? There's a term for owner operator that's kind of cool. I can't remember what it's called. Cloudwalker. And it's Cloud Hopper, right?
Cloud Hopper. Yes, we've had some good jokes over the couple of years we've been doing this about what my company is actually called.
Yeah.
It's still called Cloudwalker.
Cloudwalker.
This is the second iteration of Cloudwalker. The first was sort of 2008. It survived for a while.
Which is where we initially
and
met.
then I ran off to do the big time of tea.
we were at Victoria.
And we've since, and thanks to COVID,
right.
Cloudwalker has been reborn.
Nice.
Yes,
I first met you in the initial manifestation.
Yeah.
Because you would have been at the conference center here in Victoria,
In 2013.
and you would have been doing the process of serving some teas. I remember people coming to our booth and telling us, "You got to go check this oolong guy out." I don't even know if you were serving oolongs.
Yeah, there was oolong.
Okay, all right. So I was just, I'm like, this is the oolong guy. Okay, and I was like, I looked it up. Cloudwalker tea. Apparently, it was just you were just making it like the way it's supposed to be done, right? There wasn't, you weren't pre-brewing big vats of tea that was sort of.
No, I have yet to do that.
You've yet to do that. I've yet to do that too.
And sometimes, as you know, at a trade show, the larger, some of them can get quite large, and
Yeah.
sometimes you might have 500 or more people come
Yeah.
through in a day. But to be able to brew individual steepings for people can take some running on high gear, but it does. That's
It's
the way
worth it, right? We were
be
doing
done.
every
That's what
shot.
you do in the shop here.
Yeah, that's what we do in the shop, and at the conference center too. We would brew every shot. We were like we had like kind of like a factory line going on. We had folks that we were really stoked about their brewing, like their whisking abilities.
Yes.
And they were whisking up a storm, and we were taking like crowds through flights of tea and
What you can't see here,
Yeah.
if you want to come down to JagaSilk, 633 Courtney Street, Victoria,
Yeah.
in Nooka Court, is that in the background when they're making the matcha, we've got the other Jared Varani, Jared 2, not this Jared.
Yeah.
He's in the
He's
background
Terminator
with
1,
a
Terminator
giant
2.
vat and a canoe paddle mixing up the matcha.
That's right.
But as far as the public face of the company is concerned, everything is hand done.
Definitely.
Hand whisked.
Background is all. Well, I told them to make everything more addictive. We like to mix in a little bit of Colombian white tea, and all sorts of magic happening in the background that we should be talking about on a live stream. Hey, like what's going on here?
I've done worse.
Yeah. Okay. What we've been doing, I think last time we had Erick on the show. We were talking about our tea clinic, which is it's still in its infancy. We're still working on it, but we've been getting some classes, some trial runs going. So if you're watching and you're in Victoria and you wanna check it out, you can definitely go on our website or on Erick's website.
And if you're not in Victoria, it would be worth your trip.
To
Jared
come down.
guarantees it.
This guy too. So we're gonna have these classes continue, and you can learn about ancient tea and Pu-erh and all sorts of stuff from Erick here. And then what we try to bring to the table is a food service perspective for loose tea preparation, as well as our focus on matcha, inspired by more ancient cultural practices, but definitely a very modern twist, while trying to maintain a healthy sense of respect for the care and meditative processes that are going to make a really good cup of tea. But today, we're going to...
Today we're not doing any of that.
Any of that. This is kind of like totally different, totally new for us.
Jared has this crazy idea that he likes his classes to be instructional.
Yeah.
Whereas mine is just sort of a song and dance routine.
Yeah, it's like the leprechaun of the magic forest kind of mentality. So we have this beautiful. I think it looks like a bean pot to me, but it's gorgeous.
Well, did you hear that ring when you took the lid off?
I heard the ring.
Reasonably good. This is, again, a tribute to the second-hand stores in Victoria that you can find a very fine Irish container,
I
bean
washed
pot.
it. I washed it.
I'm not a fan of the term bean pot, but it probably is a bean pot.
It looks like
for
one.
$25.
You know, you can bake your beans in it, and you can also store your Pu-erh cake.
Yeah, and although an unglazed pot might arguably be,
I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
So we have
one
glazed.
wasn't available.
So you would have used an unglazed one if it was available.
Probably for Pu-erh. Yeah, glazed is. This would be also glazed, like for black tea, some other types of tea. Depending on the tea, some of them you'll want airtight. This one isn't exactly airtight, so it's ideal. Unglazed would be preferential, but this will be perfectly fine.
And can you explain what we're trying to achieve here? Like, what have we done? What is
Most well, so we've taken this is actually 4 bricks in this container, and so we've took them. A recent Instagram post that I did showed sort of the loose breaking down, and then you'll have pictures of that perhaps to share at some point.
Yeah.
Loose breaking down of the bricks, and some of the pieces are larger, some smaller, but that basically gets you down to sort of like a hand break point to where you could, if someone comes in, now that we're able to have people come in and sit down and have tea more than we were in the previous 2 years, and you can take the tea, hand break it a little bit more before you put it in, and then, but really the goal of that is for the tea to breathe, and so some very similar concept to wine. If our right pour doesn't breathe, it's just carving right off the brick, it's going to be very dry, but not necessarily an appealing way.
Right.
And the flavors really just don't come out. That last time you talked about that sort of thickness. That
the
thickness,
rich
the
body,
creaminess.
and
that takes about two weeks.
unless you
really.
brew it like me, right? And
You brewed it. We had a test run of this tea to see if it was JagaSilk worthy, and you pushed it about as hard as I would recommend.
yeah, I was pretty aggressive with my brew setting. I like it strong.
But it's been a week.
Yeah. Okay.
And so this which is still a
breaking,
reasonable amount of time.
So breaking it apart now, here's a question for you. The whole idea of breaking it apart seems to be speeding up the development of a tea that's already been sort of, this style has been created to already speed up. I always have this hesitation, especially with fermentation or development, to speed up anything. It seems like the slower, drawn-out processes are going to be more ideal. What are we bringing to the table here if we're breaking it apart? What are we losing? What are we gaining?
Well, the tea's going to absorb some moisture, and it's going to breathe.
Okay. And this is a good thing.
This is a good thing.
Okay. It's like taking a young red wine and decanting.
Yeah.
Open it up a bit.
It was, yeah, exactly.
What are we sacrificing? What are we losing? What would be the benefit of not doing this?
Well, if you had no intention, if you had a warehouse full of them and you had no intention to drink it for the next 20 years, it would probably be recommended. One, for collectability purposes. Two, for aging, to leave it just in that form. But once you've except for new raw pour, once you've committed to drinking the tea, often with cakes or bricks, you'll break up either the entire thing or break part of it and have that, because it really will improve the drinkability tremendously, even for whether it's ripe tea or aged raw.
So to get this correct, if I was to buy even a raw Pu-erh that I planned on aging for a while, say 20 years from now, I decide this is the year.
Depending on where it was aged.
I'm drinking this, but say everything's all good, okay? So I get this, and I'm 20 years in.
Because 20 years in North America is you need like 200 years in North America to achieve what you can in 10 in Hong Kong.
Maybe we need some sort of moisture-controlled room, and
people do have those humidors
and say we're there, okay? And so we're like, we've decided this is the year. The year that I decide to drink it, should I break up the whole pack, or should I just break off what I want to drink?
Now
cake,
the majority of collectors would break off a portion of it to leave, especially if it's a valuable cake, to leave a certain amount of it intact. But in the past, before the values really exploded, they would just take the bricks, and once they were ready to be sold off, like a 7542 or something like that, they break up huge amounts of them.
Interesting. Okay, because I get there's this whole thing. Like I had a student come by for one of the tea clinics, and he gifted me some tea, and they were in these little tiny pucks, and the merchant that he purchased them from had pressed them himself.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on that kind of thing? Is that
little tiny ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of. There was a time when the very small units were generally inferior quality tea. However, some of that's changed in recent years, and so people are using better quality to make the little pods. Are we allowed to use the term tea pod?
I don't know.
Nespresso won't sue us. Espresso, are you watching?
I used
George Clooney will personally come here.
I said teapot.
Start tipping over tables.
So this is what I was gifted.
Okay.
These were pressed by the vendor and
Yeah.
and
They call these Dragon Balls.
Okay.
Longzhu.
Okay.
And this is probably right.
Yeah.
Can I, may I?
This one's a crimson tea,
Uh-huh.
and then
Yeah, well. That's raw.
one of them's a raw Pu-erh, one of them's a
This
white
one's
tea.
raw.
That looks
That looks like what?
that's white. That's what's likely a white
That's
tea.
raw pour.
Okay. Okay. This one, oh, it does say raw Pu-erh on the package. You are correct. It's as if Eric knows
This
what he's
is-
talking about.
This seems like pour too, but
What does it say
it's
on
a
the
little bit tricky to smell through the paper.
Pu-erh.
Pu-erh. White. Oh, this is the white tea. Yeah, Pu-erh. They're out of Australia, and I think they had some competition for a while where if you tattooed the name Pu-erh in your inner lip, that they'd give you a free tong of tea. It seemed worth it to me, but those
Wow.
Australians.
Did somebody do it?
I saw pictures of it, but you know how things are these days.
You can edit
Photoshop
yeah.
anything.
Wow.
But
Okay.
nothing in the tea industry. Nothing would surprise me at this point.
Are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do a campaign? Cloudwalker tattooed into your inner lip?
I think if you want a free tong, it might be Cloudwalker Specialty Teas since 2008 or something like that.
Okay.
Ouch.
So
Stupid.
okay. So
tell them Eric sent you.
So to kind of go back to the beginning again, Eric and I have been talking about how we could collaborate because I'm not a Pu-erh tea specialist, and it is something that I'm super fascinated by. But I've only been really starting to seriously get into them for about 5 years, and I seriously is an overstretch. I'm just really enjoying them, and I don't think they're a part of my everyday, which I think would be more serious. They are though a part of my regular tea drinking regime. In a month, I'm gonna drink some brews of Pu-erh, and I'm gonna enjoy it. And I find that I really like the brothy, mushroomy, kind of composty.
And those are qualities you asked a few minutes ago, and I sort of I hesitate to get into the scientific aspects of it, although I've read a number of papers and I do sort of know some of that stuff, just because it's very easy for me to make mistakes because I'm not approaching tea
Sure,
originally
sure.
from that point of view. But a lot of those mushroomy sort of compost in a good way, forest floor, loamy elements.
Yeah.
There's one for you for your tasting note journal. Those are gonna come out far more now that the tea is breathed
Right.
for even a short period of time like this.
That makes sense. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna follow you, but
Yeah.
can you just explain about the tea that we're about to drink?
So this tea is from a producer that I work closely with and have exclusively for the Western market, called the House of Joe, a very storied brand in China. Originally began in the 1930s and then sort of took a break during the Revolution time, and then restarted in the 1980s and produces some very, very fine top level pour teas of all different varieties. I have a few of them at Cloudwalker currently. We'll expand as we expand the line as the market dictates. This one is produced in 2005, likely pressed in 2006,
Sweet.
and has been stored in Yunnan, which is pretty excellent for storage. It's considered highly desirable because it's a very dry storage. A lot has been said in recent years. The how Hong Kong storage and some sort of South Taiwan storage, Vietnam, Malaysia, has sort of come down in the estimation of a lot of mainland Chinese collectors because they think it can have a moldy taste or
Interesting. And this probably changes with the years. So, like what Eric's talking about here, for those who are, if I was going to summarize it
Yeah.
here, is just about how you store your tea cakes is going to have a big impact on their drinkability down the road. And it's going to play a role in how the flavor develops, how it opens up, all of these things. And so there's going to be different perspectives. Once you did a talk on the politics of ware storage, and so it was there's going to be lots of different opinions about what's the best and what's the ideal. But I think we just got joined by Sister Speak. Sherri, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. We have you on our speaker.
Hi, Sherri.
There we go. I think the audience can hear you too. I hope they can hear you too. You want to maybe just do a test? I'm doing kind of a new setup today.
This is so cool. Testing.
Testing. Okay.
Yunnan storage, for example,
Hello.
doesn't run into any criticism from the market in general. So,
Can you
Yunnan.
speak again? Sorry, Eric.
Oh, sorry. I was saying Yunnan storage. Yunnan
Okay,
storage.
hold on.
Checking. Czech Republic.
Try again.
Check.
Check. Okay. Now I think I can hear myself.
solid gold.
Okay, we can kind of hear you, but you're not coming through the speaker setup like I was hoping you would. Ooh. Hello.
Oh, gotcha. Hello.
Okay. So Sherri, you've met Eric before, and we're just going to be drinking some Pu-erh. So it's we just have you on the audio here for the show.
Okay.
But if you want to step up with any questions that you have in this process, while you're making tea at home there, there's nothing that I've sent you that this was kind of Eric agreed to do this fairly last minute, impromptu. So you don't have any of this Pu-erh cake, but I will send you some so that you can drink some and provide some feedback at a later date. Okay?
Cool. In the meantime, I'll just sip some. Maybe some.
It's so sad I can't hear you.
I'm also very much enjoying this new setup and watching. I'm happy to watch today.
Okay. Just give me 1 sec. Just gonna.
I don't want to mess up the flow. It's been a good episode.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm just let me see.
I got an.
Speak again.
Echo.
A little bit of an echo.
Yeah.
Bear with me, Eric. Okay. And then maybe this one here. Audio. Microphone. You gonna try speaking again? Okay. One more time.
Check.
Okay. That's coming through on. We can't really hear you so well on our side, but the audience can hear you pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
But-
the main thing.
Yeah. Okay. So
This could be dangerous.
so basically, what's going to happen is Eric's going to show me, because I'm really good at ruining this tea.
I'm going to show you the correct.
Yeah, he's going to show me the correct way of how to brew this. So you're going to be taking notes, okay, Sher? Just so when I send you some tea, we can have you.
In case
Yeah.
those watching don't realize that I joke constantly, there is no real, truly correct way, but there are some principles which may lead to a better result.
Amazing. And for those watching that are just joining us, Sherri has joined us from Sister Speak Music. She joins us almost weekly. We're really grateful for her to be essentially our honorary co-host. JagaSilk's been her tea sponsor for over a decade for her tours around the world, which are on pause right now due to the pandemic. But she's on she's doing a little bit of music. She just did a show, I think, at Guilt & Co. last night in Vancouver. She does I shouldn't say a little bit of music. A lot of music with the new album coming out. Pretty stoked for that, and joins us weekly for these tea sessions. So, hello to
Thank
Sherri
you.
Ann.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me, but since you can't, I'm going to be saying all sorts of very strange comments while you're making the tea, since you can't hear what I'm saying.
Awesome. Okay.
I'm just kidding. Totally kidding.
I have you plug. I'm so frustrated that this isn't working. You know what? I'm never done.
You're okay. Get to the.
Okay. Can you speak again?
Yes, Did you hear what I said or no?
No, not at all.
I was saying while you're making tea, I can say very strange things, since you
Right.
can't hear me.
Right. Amazing. That's the way to do it. Okay.
You both are very well dressed today. The teapots look fantastic.
You can be narrating it kind of like a golf tournament.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
okay.
going to be
All
talking
right.
about Pu-erh again in a moment.
Yeah, I'm into it. Okay, so you got that? We can't hear what she's saying, but she's describing to the audience like a golf tournament what's going on. Okay.
I'm sure that'll work real well.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We're at the
Okay,
ninth hole
so
right now.
I'm gonna, I guess, put some tea into my gaiwan. Is that how I'm gonna start?
Well, always
I'll let you.
Al-
You lead the way.
always with any type of tea, but particularly with ripe pu-erh, we need very high temperatures, so we need to preheat the gaiwan.
Okay, can't I do that when I'm rinsing the tea, or should I do that in advance?
Always, I recommend in advance.
Okay. All right. Then let's just
So
follow the
we'll-
rules.
we'll-
Okay.
Well, I
So
didn't
I'm-
make the rules, but I do. They
Five.
they are.
I can pour for you.
I can grab it from behind. About 30 seconds.
We'll have our friendly sanitizer then. Okay. So 30 seconds ish. And then
Yeah.
just kind of. Do I pour it on the lid? You want to heat up the lid?
I don't think it's necessary. The lid. I'm preheating with the lid on.
Okay.
And
Done
then
and done.
that will go then to. I like the size of these gaiwans. They're very substantial.
They are. I'm gonna get you a gray water jar.
And if you have a paper towel, or maybe
And then I have a cloth. Does that help? Or
Sure.
Or you like to brew on the paper towel?
no, I just spill a lot.
Okay. There you go. Okay. All right. So, am I going to empty this out now? Is that feels pretty good?
Sure.
Okay.
For me, I would then use the water to warm the
Of course.
warm the pitcher, but
Keep on skipping ahead. I just gotta, do things properly. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna use this water to preheat my decanter.
yes.
Am I holding this
Yeah.
correctly?
So, and if you give me how much of this gaiwan weighs?
You want to take it off? You're at 142.5.
142.5 grams, because I'm gonna eyeball it, but I do
Okay.
I will subject myself to being
weighed.
judged.
Okay. Amazing. So I can do this.
Yeah,
Okay. Am I holding the gaiwan correctly?
pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
There are some different techniques for gaiwan holding.
I can hold the foot like that with my pinky. Is that weird?
If you can do it, if your hands are big enough, sure. I find that thumb and middle finger on the outsides, and then using the index finger to sort of
Why
adjust the lid. That works fairly well, and also gives me the least likelihood of burning myself. If you
Yeah.
use a gaiwan, you will burn yourself if you practice. The ideal way to try and avoid that is to not fill above, say, 80%.
Right.
Because sometimes with the leaf expansion, even if you pour thinking that you have enough room, the leaves will expand, and by the time you go to pour it, you're pouring like this, because
Yeah.
trying to
Okay.
hang on to. I have got extreme burns over the years because I didn't want to let on that I was burning myself while pouring it
Fair.
down or
Oh
something.
gosh.
Part of the process, but yeah, about
Why
no more than
gaiwan?
80%.
Can you explain? We could use different glass teapots. We could use a little Yixing teapot potentially. Why are we brewing in a gaiwan? And for those watching, they don't even know what a gaiwan is.
Gaiwan literally means lidded bowl, and one of the reasons I'm currently recommending gaiwans for people to use is because, hello, Mr. McFeely, is because they're the most versatile. Because they're glazed, you can use them for any type of tea. Some people would say, oh, for ripe pu-erh, you should be using an Yixing teapot. Well, not everybody has not only does not everyone have an I Ching teapot, they don't
Right.
necessarily have I Ching teapots specifically devoted to ripe pour, to aged pour, to even all 18 teapots that you're supposed to have for all the different varieties.
Sure,
but
sure.
if you have one guy one, it's an excellent starting point for people getting into tea, and also it's an essential for what's called kung fu tea, or demonstrating your skill in tea brewing. And one story is when we had the Silver Crescent tea shop down in Vancouver, which still sort of exists under a new name, Van Shop. Someone came in one day and we had all these great teapots which were made for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in China or something for the
Okay,
Olympics.
okay,
And they were all
okay.
they were pretty good. Not the most expensive, but they were, as far as shop use, pretty darn good. And a customer came in one day and said, "Oh, no wonder you make such good tea. You have all these teapots." And so from that day, I didn't use anything but a Guy one for a year and a half, just to show that.
Because you didn't want it to be the teapot, but yeah, what's kind of nice is too, I guess, proving that we can make good tea and something that you just picked up for $3 at the
These are
secondhand store.
these
is
are actually
amazing.
really good. On the bottom it says, and I believe this, 中国景德镇, and 景德镇 is where the royal pottery kilns were
Oh, wow.
in dynastic times. And so
Okay.
although this probably wouldn't be up to the standards of the Forbidden City,
Sure.
once upon a time,
But-
they're probably better than most of what you can get now. Partly because the porcelain, the clay that
Okay. What am I hearing here?
the clay is
Oh,
just because I only paid them $3, you're not allowed to
What
break
am I
them.
doing? Right. Hold it like this.
It's got a nice sound to it.
Ooh, okay.
And the clay is technically extinct, although just like I Ching clay, certain clays are said to be extinct. They're not. There are still some around, but
it's just
but
not
they're not
regular.
using to make things that go into for dim sum restaurants anymore. Let's put it that way. But in the 80s they were. So next, yeah, just the sound of ceramics will give you a strong indication of their quality.
Okay. Okay.
This is perfectly respectable.
Okay.
And I would argue, partly because of the thickness, you have all kinds of different Guy ones of different qualities. If you can get something like this, it's a little bit on the thicker side. It's going to be better for making teas like ripe pour, which really need a high temperature in order to steep out the aromatics and
Sure. Yeah,
and
like
the
because I was
flavors.
told that when I had Daniel on the show from the Chinese tea shop, he was all on kind of porous clay for this kind of tea that we're about to drink today, and he was all into Gaiwans, etc. Especially there was a particular teapot that had reminded me of you ever seen those Glencairn whiskey glasses?
Sort of, yeah.
They have kind of a bulbous bottom and then they narrow at the
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
He had a teapot with kind of looked like that with a little lid on top.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I bet you there's the same thing happening here. It's like a protection of aromatics for those more floral teas.
Yes.
But this kind of, I guess, is just so versatile. You can just use it for whatever, and it's
Sure, and technically it's correct, but you can also make tea in a coffee mug if you need to.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a matter of if not every one thing I was noticing about your pots. One time I came here and Jared made an aged 1990 raw pour in one of these side handled Japanese teapots, and it came out extremely well. I was really impressed, and that's another great alternative. And just because we're doing this way, it doesn't mean it's the only way of doing things. It doesn't mean it's the best way,
Right.
but it is a way, and it's how we're doing it today. And if you have this and you don't have anything else,
You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. So we're just about to steam milk for a moment here.
Can
Just one
do
sec.
it.
Yeah, it's all good. Okay.
and as we begin our brew, the sun has come out to illuminate my Gaiwan
Yeah,
upon
right.
the table,
It's there for you.
signifying that the gods of tea have approved of our sacrifice.
Amazing. So am I gonna?
And the
Yeah, look at that.
the
It's
bean
shining
pot
right
also.
on the tea here. You're probably pretty warm there. So am I? You gonna do this first, or should I just go until you say stop?
Well, how many grams? Well, I would say about 8, no more than 8.5 grams would be.
So I'm gonna hide the grammage
I would
from you,
yeah,
and
I'd
you're
say
just gonna
8.
tell me
That's
if you
gonna
were
be
to
about-
eyeball
It's
that.
got to be 10,
That guy right there,
9.
6.
That's it. Okay.
Can I put in more, or should I just go with that?
Well, I like I say, about 8.
Okay.
8 or 8.5. I'm going to go for 8. I think that's plenty.
Okay. So you're gonna eyeball
and
8.
I'll take the pieces. I take it sort of loosely, just lightly handbrake. We want to keep the leaves as intact as possible.
Do you weigh your tea when you're working with it?
No.
No. So you just go for it.
I only do it for your benefit.
Okay. So we're gonna weigh today, but you don't weigh normally. So that's
my
actually,
Gaiwan again weighs 142.5 grams.
That's right. So we're gonna see
We're gonna see how close I can get to 8.
Post. Yeah. Okay. And then this is what you feel you're normally brewing with, right there. Is that correct?
This is about what I would recommend using.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm going for 8. How
Okay.
close am I?
Okay. So.
I want to be around 150.
Okay. You're at 14 grams.
Really?
Yeah. Now,
Well,
the farmer. I want you to go with what? No, we
Silly
go
me.
with what you eyeball, man. Like, let's just go. So I
Alright.
had this theory that's what we were. That's what you were doing. Because honestly, a lot of the farmers that I'm dealing with, like at Phoenix Mountain and stuff, they're like 10 grams in a little 3-ounce teapot.
you can do
You
it.
know. So like.
I think we'll go with what I originally had.
Yeah. Right. Like, let's just go for it. So I had 8 grams in mine. So
In
that
my
means I need
defense-
another 6 grams. Yeah.
Although I am slightly embarrassed,
Okay.
is that this is a very large Gaiwan.
It is.
and it can be deceptive.
Yeah. No, it's good.
And I
It's
haven't
good.
had breakfast, so I'm
So you're
kind
hungry.
of hallucinating
You
from
gotta-
all the tea I've had
Excellent.
earlier.
This is good.
Excuses.
Yeah, it's good. You following this, Sherri Ann? Sherri Ann?
As far as we know, Sherri Ann's had running commentary this entire time.
Yeah, she probably has.
I've actually decided to mute my mic because
Oh,
there
amazing.
was so much
Okay.
noise.
You
I'm in the
could
background
be
here.
making one of those the Phoenix Mountain oolongs along with us. It's it's
Okay.
a tea that does well in a little Gaiwan, and
I would
Jared
like to
is using
comment.
a massive amount of tea.
that's exactly 14 grams.
It's like a quarter.
That
of
is
a brick.
exactly 14 grams. So, but I'm gonna break it apart. I'm gonna break it apart. Because I want to drink what you're drinking. I want to
Jared's
follow.
tea is going to come out like engine oil.
I know, it's the same as yours. What are you saying? Oh, there's hair in it.
And yes, this
Oh, it's plastic.
well, yeah. At this time, when they were processing the tea, it was often left exposed to the air. Animals were circulating. Sometimes you'll find bits of plastic or hairs. It's not as much like that these days, but it is certainly something you can find within your tea.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Yeah, I feel like it happens. We get tea, tencha that's brought our way, and we go to mill it. Sometimes you see a little bit of canvas,
Sure.
or a little bit of the
Yeah.
shade growing apparatus that's kind of found its way in through production, and you just kind of take that out. Don't mill that.
And it's a reminder in a sense that it is a natural and completely handmade product.
It is. Yeah.
Made in a jungle.
You know, it's when there's bugs in your organic vegetables. It's like, oh yeah.
One thing I like about some of these companies that are selling sort of less attractive fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, an apple had to look,
Okay,
waxy and
yeah,
perfect.
perfect,
Otherwise,
yeah.
it wouldn't be saleable. Whereas
It's better this way. Yeah.
it produces a lot of waste.
Am I? So am I doing my rinse or what's
Yes.
my okay? So I'm gonna. Do I submerge the leaves entirely or do I
I
like
would, yeah.
fill the guy when you say when?
It almost feels like a teacup.
You're telling me.
You're going to want to cover them.
Okay,
That's enough.
that's it. Okay, all right. You wanna?
5 to 10 second rinse.
Okay.
I might do a shorter rinse, but if you want to peel off all those tannins and any sort of remove
I like acid. I like tannin.
some
I like
bitterness,
bitters.
you can steep it a little bit longer. It's not a cleanliness issue in this case. Some Chinese tea people will say, well, you have to, with right pour, you have to rinse it twice,
Oh, jeez. Okay.
which for me is scary.
Okay.
There are teas out there which I don't recommend drinking.
Are you gonna drink the first one?
I don't drink them.
Okay. All right. But you were using it to preheat this guy again.
Yeah.
To keep it
So
warm.
technically,
that's I gotta keep doing that. Hey?
you mentioned Daniel earlier about and what we're doing, this process that we're doing right now, this is classic Kung Fu tea. Some people will tell you that in order to do Kung Fu tea, you should use a Gaiwan, and there's of course debate among people who practice it, but we are doing it in a relatively sort of purist kind of way today.
Okay.
But within Kung Fu tea, you don't drink the rinse.
Okay.
Dan,
Yeah, he was
talked about that one.
pretty on that. So do I fill this now do I wait a moment or do I,
It's ready to go.
okay, it's ready to go? Okay.
And because of the amount of tea, you're going to want to do a fairly quick steeping. Like
Okay.
I wouldn't go over 5 seconds
Okay. Is that from when I finish filling or from when the water
From-
starts hitting it?
from when you finish.
Okay. So to the top?
About 80% full.
80%. Okay. So that blue line feels like it's there for a reason. Is that what I should have filled too?
You're going to increase your risk of burning your fingers.
Okay. All right. I feel good about this.
I think you filled it very well. I
Okay.
shouldn't be talking while I'm pouring the water either, technically.
Ooh, that looks good. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Wow.
I love it when it's brackish and mushroomy and all sorts of fun stuff.
I went with Mila and Chan instead.
Sometimes you'll see people do this where they.
Say that again?
Sometimes you'll see people do this where they're sort of, particularly in later brews,
Look at that. You see that, Sherri Ann?
agitating the
Yeah.
leaves helps to extract more of the essence of the leaves.
Ooh, yeah, that's I always teach people never to do that. Are you a pro agitator? Are we on?
I don't do it that often, but
Okay. Is it something that seems to
it's
make
something
sense?
that is done. One indicator of a good quality tea is the distance from which you can smell it when you're brewing it. So it's something we've noticed over the years. When I was studying in Taiwan and also back here, is that the tea will waft from even great distances, and often we find the better the tea, the further it can travel. And this one's just jumping out from the Gaiwan, getting a lot of what Jared was talking about, the umami notes.
The umami notes, the mushroom. You know, that's interesting what you say about the aromatic wafting. You know, when I'm whisking matcha,
Yeah.
you know that it's done when the aromatic hits your nose and it's like got that it's like a moment. Like you don't need any
Really
need any
good water.
timer, you don't need anything.
Really good water here, by the way.
It's good water?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's good. We do a quadruple filter.
It's noticeably very good.
We filter it 3 times and then we remineralize it to give it something for the flavor molecules to lock onto.
Impressive. I probably should have heated these cups, but with
Good.
more recently. But we'd got to chatting. Normally, when you're brewing tea, you're not going to be talking for 10 minutes before.
Sure,
But
yeah.
for the
We're
sake
drinking,
of the
we're
performance,
drinking out of large cups.
now, and
So we're
going
allowed to talk.
We're going to have.
Oh yeah, you're gonna
one
drink
of each other's.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So Sherri Ann, you had a question there?
See, my being polite, I'm pouring yours first.
Oh, amazing! I'm rude, so I'm pouring yours second.
Clearly.
Clearly, I'm a terrible human being. Okay. You had a question, Sherri Ann?
Oh no, I just said I decided to drink Mila and Chan.
You decided to drink tea while you're watching?
Yeah, this is what it's gonna be like when you finally reach 115 years old.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm decided to drink Mila and Chan.
Milan Shan. So you're joining with some Milan Shan.
And perhaps we can show a couple of the things we look for is we want a shiny liquor, they call it. This one had a bit of that sort of tea mist on the top, or tea fog.
Okay.
And
You want to show mine too, and you can explain to them how terrible I've done.
I don't remember which ones.
Mine is this one.
They look almost identical.
Yes. Okay.
Jared's is slightly richer and darker, more opaque.
Is that a bad thing?
No.
Okay. I'm very nervous. Okay.
The differences are slight.
Okay. So I'm gonna drink mine first.
That's really opened up nicely even in the short.
The moment I'm waiting for.
Short time, but
Tastes pretty similar to me.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tastes great.
It's nice.
This is very rich and silky. Got that mushroom thing happening. But tasting notes is like you were saying in a previous episode that that's kind of like a joke for.
Oh, just
for,
among my friends. We're it's.
Oh.
Give
I
you some
think
tasting notes.
one thing that happens is if you work in the tea industry or in the shop or something like that for long enough, you hear a lot of very similar. There's a lot of repetition in terms of questions and things like that.
Right.
And so sometimes people, just like any industry, people sort of develop kind
A certain what is it? Sardonic
of
attitude.
sardonic attitude.
There we go. Okay. So
And one really great way to get the nose on your tea is
Yeah.
to smell directly from the pitcher, although it's a considered bad form to speak into the pitcher. Go.
yeah,
"Oh."
that make, sure.
Sounds
Yeah,
like-
you that's probably good rules, especially now.
There are things that one might think is totally intuitive, but again,
You know, I when I'm having like Sherri's
and
drinking
some people,
some Milan Shan.
Pedro goes like this, doesn't he? Narrate it, and he has this whole performance, which was
It's great.
Sherri Ann.
Yes.
When you're drinking the Milan Shang, when you're done drinking a cup, smell the cup, because that's where I often spend some time. I was mentioning to the staff one time during a cupping. I'm like, when I'm on my deathbed, I just want this tea, an empty cup of it, on my nose, just
Milan
that beautiful osmanthus perfume. Yeah, it's just gorgeous, and yeah. Osmanthus makes it sound like it's a scented tea, but it's not. Okay, so I'm gonna go for that second steep. This is this almost looks like wood, hey, like bark.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Iced.
This isn't heating up for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
You're using about a quarter more than I am. You can also smell directly from the brewing vessel, the teapot, or the gaiwan.
Okay.
The light's really being our friend today. I've been experimenting a lot with different light treatments
Okay,
in
okay.
Instagram stuff lately.
Does it help this lamp? You think the lamp is helping
Well,
us
I
out?
think
And the sunlight?
The sun is doing it in this case, but
Yeah. It's looking pretty nice. Like you hold it up and I don't know about you, but you can almost see through.
oh, you can. It's got it's that sort of the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing happening. It smells really nice. I'm having a hard time making this boil. What's going on? Come on. I turned it off and on again. I think I need to unplug it and plug it in again.
We've been having a few technical issues today
We've had
across the board.
Yeah. So you know what? Why don't you keep talking about this tea? I'll go boil it on a different.
So some of the things that I really like about this particular tea, which I find is consistent to a lot of quality ripe pours. One is sort of a mineral quality. You can really distinct mineral quality, which is also something which other types of tea, Phoenix Oolong is noted for, Cliff Tea is noted for. Certain sort of tropical wood type fragrances like rosewood, or you could even argue a little bit of a sandalwoody type aroma in there. It's got a real nice dryness to it, and for me it really pops just on a tea experience level. It shoots right back on the palate, even to the point of the ears, which I find is good. Not everyone, that might sound odd to some people, but depending on where the tea registers, how far up on the palate, how far back on the palate it jumps to. If the feeling sort of penetrates up to your sinuses or even goes over your head, all of these things are qualities which the tea expert, shall we call them, looks for as indicators of quality.
Amazing.
And there's a well-known collector down in Oregon who famous tea guy who does a lot of tea meditation, has a center down there. Kevin's School of the Tea Arts. Really cool person. And when he drank it, he felt that this tea resembled a lot of Pu-erh cakes or bricks from the 80s or 90s, and I'm in agreement with that. And,
This particular cake.
Well, this particular brick.
It's a 2006. So
yeah. It's not as though it was made yesterday. One thing.
Am I allowed to go first? Is
Go
this
ahead.
bad
Oh,
tea
absolutely.
etiquette?
No,
I don't want to be rude again.
No, well,
No?
I was joking about
Okay,
that. Again.
all right.
But the one thing to keep in mind about ripe Pu-erh is that it should be at least 2 years old, which is the amount of time for the enzymes and the microbes in there to
So what happens
balance
between
out.
2006 and 2020? Why I guess like what if I took this 2020 Pu-erh and I drank it, would I be doing what kind of flavor changes am I going to see by letting it age till it gets to say where it is in this tea right now? What is my benefit? Why do I age my tea?
Well, some might argue, and they'd be right, that the aging of ripe Pu-erh produces more. The differences are more subtle in ripe Pu-erh than they can be in raw, because raw Pu-erh basically you're starting with a green tea similar to an oolong, and it turns into a dark tea like this over the course of a number of decades. However, the ripe tea will develop often in good quality, a drier flavor. The wood sort of the incense notes, like fine incense like agalloch wood or sandalwood. These are highly desirable incenses. What are what we often look for in tea. Those will become more prominent. They'll also evolve. Something a sandalwood fragrance might turn into an oud in Saudi Arabia. It's an oud wood, or an agalloch wood is another word for the same qiang fragrance. The mouthfeel, the fullness of the taste, the viscosity of the liquid, clarity should be there fairly early on. But this is one thing about this tea that is, you can, if you look around the rim, you'll see sort of a goldish crown around it. That's a quality you really want to see.
Okay, yeah, I see
you
that.
want this. You want a certain viscosity, an opacity, but not like without a lot of particulate in there. So not like a port where you've got all the sediment at the
Have I
bottom.
done something?
Some
Have I done
ripe
something
Pu-erhs-
wrong?
No, you've done it.
There's some
ours
sediment.
look basically identical.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have a little bit. I feel like from how I broke it and how I'm pouring my Gaiwan, that it's not as clean as yours, but it's still looking good.
But again,
Can I have
be-
some of your,
oh
your
yeah,
second brew?
you see, there I go.
See, he's being rude.
That's what I get
Yeah,
for-
he's
That's what I get for that one.
Okay.
But and although there are a lot of similarities between ripe Pu-erh across the board, each individual vintage, each production, the blends are going to be unique, and so there will be subtle differences between vintages.
that they're going to
that's-
develop and change.
But as a
with time.
general rule, that applies.
They get less aggressive too,
What I-
right? Like less as they age, you're
Yeah.
gonna have like a tempering of the tannin, so to speak. No.
What I should have mentioned is that the second steep that we do really should be just water in and pour it out.
Okay.
Almost immediately would be.
Otherwise,
would
it gets
produce the
a
best
little bit
result.
like this is a little rough around the edges, but it's still enjoyable.
Yeah, we're allowing for some.
Oh, yours is smoother than mine.
We're allowing for some technical difficulties due to the fact that this is a presentation, but
You can taste it. You can taste mine. It's kind of got, if taste was a shape, it's kind of got ridges to it, whereas yours has got.
it's potent.
Yeah, whereas yours is still nice and smooth. Got some silkiness to it. That's really interesting, and that's just two different people using the same stuff. And I just was like, I didn't get the go-ahead to finish my second steep there, so I'm going to blame you for this one.
When in doubt,
I went
blame somebody
Yeah,
else.
that's right. When in doubt, pour it out.
Yeah, and you can do that. I try not to waste tea. But,
Sure, sure. So I'm gonna empty that.
and again, since we've broken the leaves well, loosely. I really much prefer some of these poor shaped teas, the bricks or the cakes. Some of them can be extremely tightly compressed, especially the ones that they used to send to Tibet in the old days. Often they'd get a reputation for you'd have to almost break it apart. Well, not almost. You'd have to break it apart with a hammer and an ice pick or something. I prefer teas which are much more loosely compressed. I doubt that this tea was made with a stone mold, but it mimics that level of compression. Like it's tight, but it's still loosely compressed. And I also found that a lot of the old classic teas, 100-year vintages, and some of these would be similar to that, in that you can get a letter opener or a tea maker in there relatively easily and pry it open, and then you're keeping the leaves intact. There are reasons why they have the iron molds or the pneumatic presses, and you can make different arguments for them. But that's my preference. And on teas,
Do you like the stone pressed cakes better than the machine pressed cakes, or is there no difference to you? Or
I'm a traditionalist in most things.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if it was a cigar, I'd rather have it hand rolled. Even if you could prove to me that a machine could do it just as well, I'd still rather have it.
So you're a stone press kind of guy.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. I mean, I think there's something theatrical and just alluring about the whole process of keeping it really small and craft made and all that stuff. And when you get into hydraulic presses and big machine run factories, it's a lot less. It's a lot less fascinating. A little bit of tools is okay. You know, I like those. You know, when we first opened up the tea bar, my dad actually built a wall right here that we since taken down.
Okay.
All with hand tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Very
needed it for the
Japanese-
next day
very
for
Japanese
our inspection, and he built a wall, and it was ready the next day. He worked through the night. It was amazing. All hand tools because we didn't have any power tools.
Tremendous.
It's kind of amazing. Okay. I'm having a really hard time getting this kettle to work. So.
I got a little bilocational there for a second myself. That's my favorite operative word in tea brewing. And again, the level of care that we take in breaking apart our teas once they're in our possession will also greatly affect the result in the tea brewing. So if you're taking your time, and I imagine butchery is like this, although I've never had a chance to do it myself, having been a vegetarian for a very long time. But just feeling how the knife, I use a letter opener, but how the letter opener goes in, where the weak points are, where the compression might be a little bit stronger, how you can break things apart to try and naturally unfold the tea shape, the brick or the cake, as best as possible. That is something you can play around with at home, and it's quite enjoyable. Produces different results.
I'm really interested in. I'm just really interested in. I like the fact that you bring tea cakes here that are actually easier to work with. I have had some.
They're a nightmare.
Yeah.
I have cuts.
I just don't even know how. I don't even understand the point of the tea cakes that you can't access the tea. Like, it's just like, what are you doing?
You haven't lived until you've pulled a tea needle a quarter inch out
I
of
feel
your
like they're there to break the
because
letter
you were
opener.
talking to a customer while you were trying to open something.
So
Yeah, the joys. But yeah. And what, just from an experience point of view, this tea has a wonderfully mellow energy, very grounding.
this is
My face
my
is numb,
Pu-erh
which I
sword.
consider a good sign.
I use it for, and this is a plate I got from Daniel.
That shape, like, although I say I use may I see the knife? although I use a letter opener which is similar to this. The most highly recommended style is the needle style, which will be easiest to use and most effective, particularly when you have a tea cake like this, which is a little bit tighter compression. It will allow you to get in there. But if you have a loose compression, then broader edge, like that's a miniature sword, will allow you to sort of get in and then sort of pry apart loosely. And then, as you see with the brick, how I processed it is you get these sort of sheets of tea. Like I'll go in, take it down, take the brick and divide it in half, and then
Rather
divide it
than
in half again.
dividing
and
it like a pie.
yeah,
You're
with
actually
the knife.
slicing it through the side, and you're
Yeah.
breaking it apart so that it. That's
And once
interesting.
you get into a manageable chunk, then you just sort of hand loosen it.
I think I'm getting confidence from watching you break apart tea cakes to be able to manage the tea cake I got from Daniel a little bit better. Because I think I was told to take a little bit from the side and a little bit from the center when I.
Well, that's not wrong. It's true.
Okay. Okay. Should I? Is this? I'm on my third steep. How long should this be? I just
Now.
filled it. Now.
Right now.
Now. Okay. Going for now.
Got so much leaf in there. You
Yeah, I
shouldn't
just
even.
need to
You should just pour the
Just
water in and
rinse.
pour it.
Bam. Done. Wow.
That looks pretty. It does look pretty good. It's on the stronger side, but you still get that redness.
Yeah.
You've got a hint of a golden rim around the edge.
So do
you
you think
can see through it with some light, which is
Do you think that the 14 grams that we eyeballed through
it's
your
aggressive.
through your
It's aggressive for sure.
impressive and aggressive?
Wow.
Okay. I have some more for you.
Excellent.
Okay. There you be.
Do our customary tap.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't have my tea toy. I was at Vansha, and Kira was making me tea, and she had a little monster thing
Yeah.
on her tea tray.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Freddie.
Yeah, and
teapot.
I was like, "What's that?" She's like, "Oh, it's the teapot."
It looks sort of like a frog if you
Yeah.
took a frog and then submitted it to all sorts of experimental breeding programs and crossbred it with
well,
like a.
Pedro was having tea with us too, and he
Wolverine.
said that I think you've been feeding him too much tea. He said he's getting a little bit fat there, Kira, and she said he's not fat. That's his fortune.
That sounds like Kira.
Is that funny?
So I could hear her sing.
It's just ever since I've been like, yeah. Whenever I'm, I have a little bit of my fortune starting to to build around my hips.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. I'm liking this. I think it'll like.
I'm a big believer in having in the childless dad bod look.
Sure. This is good. Okay.
And the tea is now getting to us.
Apparently.
Excellent.
So there is an expression in the industry called getting tea drunk, which is, I think, what especially the old teas seem to achieve very quickly. That's really, really good. Yeah. Lovely. I'm ready for it. I this third brew that I did just now,
Yeah.
for mine, I'm much happier with. Yeah. Nice. Very good manners there, Eric. You didn't swirl the tea as it was brewing.
Swirl like.
Yeah, like again, like we were talking about that a little bit, but
I pick a point and when brewing pour, I'll pick a point and just pour into a single point. I don't rotate the pour.
okay.
Some people do. I
Now,
don't.
why would you rotate the pour versus not rotate the pour? Is there a reason? Is it just aesthetics? Something comes to mind that it would help to spin the leaves with the convection.
You can
current.
get a spin going with the leaves by,
with the
by
sing-
choosing a point.
if you do single, right? But
Yeah.
if you start, but the benefit to doing like multiple
Magical
points is
aroma.
full submersion. of the leaves, right? So I guess it's
I don't get into these arguments anymore.
okay. All right.
Some people do it like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I
okay.
choose to do it like this.
Sure.
And
And
some,
that's it.
some other people
yeah,
do
I
too.
don't have any reason, no rationale.
The people that
quietly you
the
do.
people that I learned from practice this way, and I find it a very effective method. And
nice.
that's as far as that.
That's good.
Speaking of kung fu tea, tea brewing is like kung fu. If you talk to 10 different people, you'll get 10 different answers.
And this
everybody
isn't
else, if
something
you
that
talk
Eric's
to an
making up.
expert, everybody else is wrong except me.
So kung fu or gung fu or however you want to pronounce it
yeah,
is it's often I hear it often pronounced gong fu cha, but it's the same characters as kung fu.
Well,
And-
in Chinese, it's gong fu. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. And so
But-
is the martial art, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's just it got
Don't wanna-
transliterated as,
Yeah.
as kung
Cool.
fu. So
It's,
when
it's
we're
cool.
speaking
So it's
English,
the
we
art of
choose-
what does kung fu mean?
it means hard work. It means excellence.
Okay.
I like sort of excellence through hard work as the result of hard work. Expertise. One thing a very classic way of appreciating the aroma of the tea. Some is from the bottom of an empty cup. Other options are to have the smelling cup, which is sort of a tall cylindrical cup. But I really like, if I'm just making tea myself, smelling right from the lid. The lid will give you a tremendous read on the tea, and by smelling the tea, we're really enhancing our experience of it many fold. It lights up the.
Did I go too soon? I'm okay. I tried to make.
Are
this
you
one
burning
work.
yourself, or?
I am burning
Yeah,
myself.
Yeah,
Right now. I filled it a little too full.
but you took it well.
Thank you.
You
this
soldiered
is-
on. You
I just
powered,
have a-
you,
I just
pow-
have-
you
I have a
powered
very-
through that burn.
I have a very shaky hand right now. Okay, gonna
I
smell
feel
it.
like we should be high-fiving right now. We're
Yeah.
not for this prison visitation screen that we have here.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm drinking this one on my own.
Sometimes I try to pretend like I'm not high from the tea
Right.
for the purposes
Like
of these
sitting up
performances,
straight.
but
Yeah.
I think people should know.
I actually
know
still
the
remember
truth.
the very first time that I was drunk. I was sitting there most of the time. I was at actually. It was Is this good? Are we want some more?
I'm
Okay.
impressed.
Are we
Go ahead.
This is the cup that
I'd
I'm
like
pouring
to hear
to.
the story.
Okay.
The first time you.
Yeah, I was 17, and I remember I was sitting up. I was having sake actually.
Yeah.
And Japan. That's not empty. Are
That's
we allowed
right.
to do that? Is that okay?
Ganbai.
Okay. All right. Okay. There you go. And I just remember sitting there, and I kept on wanting to fall backwards like this. And I just kept on straightening myself and trying to pretend that I wasn't affected. I just spent a good hour doing that. That's my memory.
Excellent.
This is
Another solid rule of thumb, which falls into the etiquette side of tea brewing, is that just as the guy one, you probably don't want to go over 80% full just to save your fingers. The cup also, we're going a bit over this because we're a little bit loosey-goosey at this point, but
Sure.
keep it about 75 or 80% is
Yeah.
considered, is like
makes sense.
the,
Some people get really concerned about picking up cups filled with hot water. They think they're going to burn their fingers. But if you pincer right at the top and then you use the foot of the cup on one of your fingers, like that seems to work for me pretty good.
yeah. But there's this old classical Chinese expression, 茶满气人, that if the cup is full, then you're insulting or being abusive towards the person, because in the palace in the old days, when they had the various concubines and wives drinking tea with the emperor, and they all had to drink at the same time the emperor was. So if one of the other ladies of the court didn't like you, they'd fill your cup extremely full, so you'd be burning your fingers, and you'd have to pop back the scalding tea in at the same time that the emperor was drinking.
Right.
And
Right.
so it was a way of sort of like
messing with somebody.
Kardashian.
Yeah. Okay.
people.
Okay. Yeah. It's like
Is that a
old
term?
school 90210.
Jared, is that a term, Kardashian?
I think it's.
Can we
I think
create that term?
Approved.
It's approved.
Approved by the Ute.
The youth. Yeah.
The Ute. The Ute approved. Kardashian. Okay. I'm on my fifth steep here.
Yeah.
Am I gonna explode? Are we? I going to be okay?
I don't think so.
Okay.
This tea certainly comfortably 10, 12 steeps.
Should I still be doing these like very quick
I,
infusions?
at this
Deal.
point, the fourth steep, fifth steep, you can draw it out a little bit more.
Okay.
So the first steep 5 to 10 seconds, then second and third you're gonna want to almost right away, and then fourth you can draw out 10, 15 seconds. You can draw the times out. After that, you've sort of.
That makes sense. So I feel like I've drawn that out enough right now. I think I'm ready for it.
I recommend brewing with the force.
Okay, the force is telling me to pour it out, so I'm gonna do that, and I'm
And
gonna,
that looks really good.
and it's burning my hands again. But I feel pretty low. I'm kind of surprised that I'm burning myself.
That's because I gave you the defective guy one.
That's right. That's another thing they do at the palace.
I only told you
At
I
the
just
palace,
picked these
they-
up this
they-
afternoon. I had them custom
Back
made.
in the day, they would make them so that they transmit the heat to your fingers faster, one cup to the next. Okay.
Sometimes you'll get a.
I'm a steep ahead of you now, man. I'm kind of roaring
It's a
along.
little bit dangerous having to just
Yeah, we're
pop
just
them back like that.
we're drinking
And
two
if you
pots.
another little trick, if you're not sure how the steep's going, you can it's okay to just take a little peek and again you can draw the leaves back and that'll give you a sort of eyeball.
ruining the rice,
You're not
or
ruining anything.
What are your thoughts on the lid? I once did a test, I remember early on, and I used to teach people making tea in a cafe. That brewing tea, it was way more important to weigh your tea and weigh your water. So, like, 'cause I still am often interacting with spaces that are brewing 360 mils of water
Okay.
for their tea, and so it's been really a challenge, but I think I've gotten some spaces to really key into doing these 240 mil or even 180 mil.
Yeah.
And this is 180, I would assume.
That's
should
what
weigh
my
it out.
guess was, but I was wrong about it.
And it's interesting
Yeah.
because I think that you get to a place where you're so, where was I going with this story? Oh yeah. So I thought that it was really important that I
Lovely.
focused on more tea and less water than it was about a guy one. So I was having them brew in a measuring cup and pour through a sieve. And I was drinking the tea and I was like, you know what, this is actually, like, I'm getting body, I'm getting aromatics. My theory going in was that if I brewed without a lid on it, I would lose some of those delicate aromatics. It's probably exactly what's happening, but I wasn't, at least at that time, able to pick up on it. Have you ever done like a side-by-side where you brew in a gaiwan without a lid and with a lid and see if you can actually taste the difference?
I've never tried it.
Be interesting.
The only tea that I know of that you would brew traditionally without a lid on is like a Longjing dragon well, where you just often make it in a glass.
Right.
But,
yeah. And they drink
it's-
it with they don't even strain it.
Well, I like the art of experimentation in tea because that is really how you, particularly teas that you're dealing with them a lot. That's how you get to know them.
Right.
It's how you can discover new things about them, and sometimes the classical principles can be you can bend them or you can adjust them as or just throw them out entirely if that's what works for you. But
Would you mind closing the door?
I will.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you for pouring tea from it. Be easier for you to do it than me to.
But but an important thing to be remembered is that a lot of these classical principles have been developed over a very extensive period of time. Although to say they've developed over 5,000 years is a little bit misleading because this how we're doing tea right now. This might be 500, have a 500-year track record.
Which one?
But,
CTC, please.
technically,
Earl Grey, sorry.
and right for this specific process for producing this type of pour tea has only been around since 1972, for example.
Okay. Amazing.
Although it mimics the process of high temperature, high humidity, aging of aggressive aging.
And which has always been,
This
people
this ripening process was done extremely well, though, I have to say.
Well, I was gonna say, there's I think there was for a long time, and I think it still remains a stigma toward
It's like drinking a cigarette.
It's like it's like you're cheating or something. It's like in the world of vinegar, it would be like malt vinegar. It would be this like speeding up of the process that is not allowing for the true nature of the bacteria to do its work, etc. But this is delicious.
Yeah.
So, and I think at the end of the day, that's I don't even know if we should be calling it Pu-erh. Like, it is Pu-erh because it's the bacteria, etc. But it's like as different as, say, a white wine and a red wine are, or as like a stout and a lager in beer, or as really as a green tea and an oolong. Like there's similarities,
Yeah.
but there's just it seems like there's just so much. Yeah.
It is. I think it's increasingly coming to be seen as a separate category.
Yeah.
Within tea, much like green oolong or roasted oolong are
very
vastly
different. Or even a parched green and a steamed green. Like they're just so different, and it gets so different that you get to a place where it's like, okay, maybe they're just all the same. I remember conversation with Pedro was saying that he believes that all of the genres are kind of bull anyways. Like, it's all sort of in the eye of the beholder, and on the farm level, they're not like measuring percentages of oxidation in a lot of these places. Like maybe some of them are, but there's a lot of places where they're doing it all by feel.
Sure.
And they're not going to be like, oh, I've crossed this imaginary line from dark oolong into the world of crimson teas, and then suddenly, put on the brakes or something. They're just trying to make a good tea. That's it, right? And they'll experiment with different production methods if they're interested, or if it makes sense for them economically.
Yeah.
But
which is another reason why when you go back into the various vintages of one reason a tea can be so different from one year to the next is, okay, rainfall that season, climate, all these blending, but also the processing might be vastly different, as you say. And one thing that I like about tea, and that I don't feel should change, is that it does allow tremendously for the accidents to happen within the process. And I think wine is very similar.
Yeah.
That, of course, maybe you think, oh, well, we want to recreate exactly what happened this year, but you can't.
You can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This at right pour you have a lot of similarities from one to the next, but
case in point is with kombucha. We've been drinking a lot of kombucha. We brew kombucha here, and we just name it after the genre. Sorry, not after the genre, after the tea, and then we put more focus on the batch number more than anything.
which makes the most sense.
Because it's just every year, like that's why I feel like I can never drink all of the tea opportunity out there. You know what I mean? Like that's why I rotate my tea selection. So for those watching, we're at 2:30, and normally I like to do these sessions for an hour, but this has been just way too much fun. Sherri, are you still there, or did we lose you quite a while back? I think we lost Sister Speak. So if anybody wants to go and I'm going to try and improve this so that when I have my live shows, we can actually hear my co-host there a little bit better. I thought I'd done my work, but apparently I didn't do it. I don't know why. Why am I pouring off the tea tray?
I know I've mentioned tobacco a few times, and I used to smoke. I don't anymore.
Okay.
But this right pour tea seems to combine, for those of you who made the sensible decision and no longer smoke cigarettes, which is highly recommendable.
Yeah.
This is like combining a coffee and a cigarette, or tobacco.
I don't know if that's a good sale for it. Tastes like coffee
in
and
the
cigarettes.
best possible way.
You know what it tastes like to me is I feel like I'm getting that umami
This is your
from
best steep by
Is it?
far.
Okay.
Yeah, best one yet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit like silkier. I still get a little bit of grit that you're not getting in yours. And was that the last of the water?
Yeah.
No water. Okay. I'm still getting a little bit of grit. But anyways, I feel I've learned a lot today. So thank you. I feel like every time we hang out, I'm learning new stuff. We
learn by doing.
We learn by doing.
With
We do.
Pu-erh,
We do.
Some people might feel like, well, I have to read all these books. I have to understand everything.
They help. They help. It helps.
I would
It helps.
say that's almost a secondary.
Well, it's like
secondary
language,
thing.
right? Like you can study grammar and writing and reading all you want, but if you go to speak it and you can't understand, like there's an immersive element that speeds up the internalization of the process so much faster. And music is very similar.
Yeah.
You know, play the instrument, like feel it. You could read all the music sheets you want and like learn how to read music and then sit down and go to play a piano. But if you haven't, you know, so it's like that. I think with making tea, like if you're gonna make a nice ripe Pu-erh, go to a thrift shop and get yourself a $3 Gaiwan. It works beautifully. It's great. You know, I was all excited about my new Gaiwan that I got
my
online.
experience
But
that it's common to find these things just sort of lying around.
it's not.
I got lucky.
You got lucky. Okay, so you got lucky. But you can also, you know, it's what's nice is if they got if they're glazed, it's kind of like drinking out of glass in that you're not going to have any unfortunate leaching of heavy metals into your water, which I find problematic sometimes. But I've also been really enjoying porous clay teapots, so I don't even know what I'm saying. But stay away from plastic, in my opinion. Stay away from metal. I'm not a big metal tea brewing fan. This was beautiful. Big chunky doses of ripe Pu-erh, I think, is where I'm at with my enjoyment. But
it goes to show that there's a lot of forgiveness in this type of tea.
Yeah.
With a newer raw pour, if you really loaded it up and brewed very aggressively, that would be might be less forgiving.
It'd be interesting, the Gaiwan that you work with at home.
Yeah.
If you could eyeball it and then tell me what it weighed. You know, like don't do it intuitively. Don't tell yourself 6 grams, 8 grams, whatever. Just fill it to how you would normally if you were just intuitively making it.
Yeah.
But you've tared the Gaiwan, you take it off, you intuitively fill it, put it back on the scale, and just see what you intuitively filled it up with. I'm very interested in that.
Okay.
And when you pour the water on, how much does that water weigh? Because 1 milliliter is 1 gram. That's going to give me a lot of information that I can. And it's actually honestly how we started our technique with matcha. Is we participated in learning from a tea ceremony instructor that was Miu's aunt's instructor, and we asked her if she wouldn't mind if we could weigh the tea.
Yeah.
That she was putting in the bowl, and it ended up being 1.5 grams.
Okay. And
And it was 60 mils, I think, or somewhere around there. And so we've extrapolated from that. We used to do like a bigger dose and less water for making a matcha latte. I know, heaven forbid, we do matcha latte.
doesn't bother me.
but yeah, we found that following somebody who has the experience and having them do the process intuitively and then measuring after the fact is one of the most interesting ways to learn.
I think there's tremendous value in that, absolutely. And ultimately, as tea vendors and educators to an extent, we want this process to be replicable.
Right?
So
Yeah.
if you have to go to someone and only they can make the tea taste good, or then which
Problematic.
is a relationship a lot of people get in with these famous tea masters. Well, they make it so much, but ultimately the tea teachers want you to be able to take the tea and reproduce that as much as is possible. Now, given, granted that if someone sits around and all they do all day long is make tea, then they're going to get pretty good after a while. But,
and if you go to if you go to Camellia Sinensis in Montreal, one of my favorite things about their tea house is that you have a choice. You can have the tea preparer make the tea for you, or you can make it yourself. And when you make it yourself, they bring out a little tiny Gaiwan. They have a thermos they've brought to the temperature controlled place where they're happy with it for that particular tea. They set you up with a tea tray like this, and then they just explain. They make the first steep with you, them standing there, and then they say,
"Do you see that as something that could potentially be incorporated into the courtyard?" Because if you haven't been down here, Jared has a phenomenal courtyard just outside of his tea shop, which is sort of like an atrium, partly open air.
Right. It's beautiful, and I think that once we feel confident that the COVID restrictions are going to ease off,
assuming that continues
then
to
I
improve.
think that we'll start using real dishes again. I'm almost at a place where I could use real dishes again, but I'm just trying to manage that. Anyways,
Possibly. It's a possible.
yeah, but I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking at that. I actually got these thermoses that have the temperature on the top, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I've just been kind of looking at that and just sort of developing this idea. But I'd also love it to be replicable, not just at a tea house, but at a cafe. I think it would be really cool if somebody could just sit down and make the tea. And I think that's what's so important is as much as
a mystery that many have been trying to solve
for a long time. But
Yeah.
but community centers, I think they sell really good tea to lots of people,
Right.
and I think there's one of the secrets there is giving people the confidence to feel like they can make it themselves, and they don't have to have somebody who's 20 years experience making the tea for it to taste good.
Well, really, like in terms of food preparation, it is relatively easy. It's just the real trick is just knowing your ingredients. So
Exactly.
if you're let's say you're starting with one type of tea or a couple of types of tea, that makes it a little bit easier if you're just trying to learn how to make this one particular type
And
of tea.
I go for a brew ratio too. Like when I'm first learning a teapot, I like to measure how much water comfortably looks in it.
Yeah.
And then I kind of work my way backwards to say like one that I've previously enjoyed. So for sencha, I really like 1 gram for every 30 mils.
Mm-hmm.
I do a 70-degree centigrade extraction, generally from 1 minute to 1 minute 15 seconds, roughly. But I tweak that a bit depending on the origin. The farmer likes 6 grams for 90 mils. So 5 grams for 90 mils. He does 70-degree centigrade for a minute and a half. So
Okay.
it tastes like syrup. It's really good.
Yeah.
But it's a very different way of making it. So it's interesting. And then to just sort of extrapolate that into like a 180 milliliter pot would be like 10 grams. And
Yeah.
it's just, I like that though, because once you learn your ratio that you're going for, and then you can kind of figure out the teapot that you're working with, you can sort of develop an understanding of how to make. Otherwise, you get really committed to only making tea with your usual tools, so that you know it'll taste good consistently.
Yeah.
You know, but if you can kind of work out the math there, but from there, like I've been like, okay, now I know my volume roughly, so I just weigh my leaves these days. A lot of times when I'm making my gong fu cha, I just start by weighing the leaves. I know the volume of my teapot because I work with them all the time, and then I just adjust to suit. And then everything from there is by feel.
Yeah.
So I do. That's not quite true. I have a temperature variable kettle, so I generally set it at 100 degrees. But if it's a white tea, I generally do it at 90.
Your first version of the story works better.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't
yes.
it? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Anyway, I'm working on it. I'm trying to like.
I think having a temperature variable kettle is extremely sensible.
It's so helpful. I'm not reboiling all the time. It kind of just keeps.
And you're not just sitting here meditating, waiting for the sound of the kettle to come to a certain point. Like if you had nothing else to do, that would be fine. If the phone didn't ring, you didn't have to deal with a number of other variables. And
Yeah.
that
We
works
do.
perfectly well.
But we're dealing with distractions. The best teas though are definitely those made without distractions in a meditative state,
Sure.
where you can really focus on them. But hopefully, if you come down to JagaSilk or if you have Erick make you a tea, well, Erick's going to do, I think, especially at the tea clinic, meditative way of making the tea. But I think if Erick ever has a Cloudwalker tea shop again, he's gonna be dealing with the distractions again, and maybe it'll be the second best cup of tea you ever had. But, okay,
Yeah.
but thank you for watching. Sorry to Sherri from Sister Speak for not having the audio in place, but I hope that it was that her golf commentary, if it did happen, was awesome.
Maybe it's going on right now.
Maybe it's going on
we're
right now.
mute.
But you can check her out at sisterspeakmusic.com, at sisterspeakmusic for following her on, at sisterspeak, to follow her on Instagram. Erick, if people want to find you online, where do they go?
Cloudwalkertea.com or CloudwalkerT on Instagram. I think I have Facebook, but it's not really used very much.
Really great social media presence, actually. I love Erick's Instagram posts. They're very, very poetic. You should definitely go check them out. And then the teas, there's some pretty wild ones on his store that and since he's generally selling whole cakes, it's going to be really an interesting collaborative project here where JagaSilk is going to be selling and sort of a collaborative project here with Erick, some of his tea cakes where he's broken them up. And you're going to be able to try pieces of them.
And one great advantage, which I'm really happy about, is that if you're in Victoria or passing through Victoria, teas like this, I do sell the whole entire brick on the website, but you'd have a chance to come in and taste it and have that experience.
Right.
Which
They could do through the tea clinic, but they can also, it's a little bit more accessible to
it just broadens the
and
the potential of it, which is great.
And we're
it is the
open-
best shop. It is the best tea shop in Victoria.
That would be
which
very
is,
sweet. Yeah.
and probably further afield than that. Too.
Oh, well, that's very, very kind. But if you want to come check us out, we do tea service with some desserts
That's
on
only
Fridays.
because I'm retired.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you weren't retired, it'd be your shop. We appreciate Eric coming down. Thank you very
On
much.
my best behavior.
Yeah, he's doing well today. He hasn't thrown any darts. There's been no broken glass. We're still
Our
alive.
ones are still intact.
Yeah, amazing. All right, thank you so much. I'm just gonna sign off here, but that's been JagaVision episode 92. A little bit of a longer one here. I think probably one of the longest ones ever, but we had a really, really good time.
I enjoyed this.
Goodbye, everybody.